When we got married, I thought he would be my man, partner, hero, lover, best friend and soulmate for the rest of my life. I was always convinced that I would be a loving and devoted wife, faithful to my man and everything, never even looking at anyone else, let alone breaking my vows and ruining my marriage. When I first saw him, we had been married for 8 years, and were thinking about adding to our family. At first, I didn't pay much attention to him, but there was something about him, something mysterious, obscene and calculating in those gazes of his that I caught on myself. However, I knew that I would easily put it out of my head and ignore how he undresses me with his eyes every time. I was sure my husband was overreacting, making a big deal of it when he warned me to be careful with this predator, a man known for stealing other people's wives and betting them as his wife. Of course, I would never have bought into that toxic, ostentatious masculinity that he exuded. Oh, I was the wisest woman in this world who loved only her man and would never allow herself to be fooled, and I was extremely offended that my husband doubted my unshakable moral fortitude and strong will to resist temptations. When he had sex with me for the first time, I was stung that I had fallen prey to his advances. He chose the perfect time, right after one of our rare marital quarrels, one of which he witnessed at a social event. Hubby was out of town the next day on business for a week, and I was still seething with rage when this experienced hunter stopped by for a visit, just to talk and be friendly. 60 minutes and 2 glasses of wine later. Suddenly I found myself lying on our marital bed, and his hands supported my arse in a friendly manner. This insidious snake, which I led into our Garden of Eden, spent a lot of time in our bedroom that evening until I collapsed unconscious. After he left, I swore that it would never happen again, and I was sure in his iron self-discipline. After having hot sex for the 3rd time in the front seat of his Audi R8 convertible that week while hubby was away, I began to think a little. Once again, I decisively muttered to him that I had enough. I didn't understand what came over me or why I was such a fool that I succumbed to his attempts. However, I knew for sure that my main man would be home tomorrow, and I was going to immediately end this violent sexual relationship. Leaning back in satisfaction, he wiped his dick with my panties, threw them on my chest, grinned an evil grin and said, "Of course, doll." I was sure that my loving husband would never suspect anything. Clean sheets, a horny wife and sexy laundry, a bottle of his favourite Napa cab, and a night of hot sex for a trip. I was sure that I would never be able to travel weary husband. This will happen quite enough when he returns home. My confidence in my ability to use my feminine wiles to confuse his overly naive and simplistic view of the fairer sex overwhelmed me. Everything was great. I wasn't caught. After that, my vanity and pride made me believe that I could easily have a lover on the side, and my dear hubby would never discover this, would never know about my betrayal. For 2 or 3 times a month, for almost a whole year, I unleashed all my unbridled carnal desires. Hotel rooms, his private office, abandoned and remote parking lots, and sometimes my marital bed. All these were the sites of our explosive sexual rendezvous. So convinced was I that my blind hubby did not notice these numerous infidelities. When the deputy sheriff who approached me in the office asked for identification and then loudly and cheerfully announced, "You have received a subpoena," I was sure that this was some kind of stupid and terrible mistake. My husband, who loves me with all his heart, I would never do that, humiliating me in front of my colleagues and boss, and possibly jeopardizing my career. When the car and fidgeting nervously behind the wheel in tears, I knew that if only I could get him to listen to the voice of reason, he would instantly give in and forgive me. My confidence in my ability to manipulate and control him will, without a doubt, end this not very pleasant day with my victory. I was convinced of this. Appropriate words and phrases such as soulmates, meaningless sex, let's create our family, ready to have a child, let's grow old together, will immediately extinguish his possible anger and convince him to give us a second chance, and coupled with the uninhibited sex I would entice him into, well, it would put him in his rightful place and allow us to forget about such a terrible idea as divorce. Approaching the house, I was already smiling and imagining how our beautiful marriage would move on towards a bright future. I was shocked, having heard from him detailed evidence of my infidelity after I thought that I was so careful, so smart, so pleased with my dexterity and resourcefulness. It turns out that my husband had known about my tricks for 6 months, but postponed showing the cards while he built his strategy and made plans. Of course, I know case I wasn't right when I said that we haven't had sex for more than 2 months. He said it was because he couldn't bear the thought of touching me while I was giving myself to the man he had warned me about. What nonsense! I would remember if I didn't make love to my husband for 2 whole months. Maybe. And of course, I passionately argued to my husband that no lover could persuade me to abandon my vows to be a faithful wife to my loving husband. I could not have been more convincing in my magnificent speech, even if I had my hand on the Bible while delivering it. What I was sure of was that he wouldn't have enough brains to track our perverted sexual adventures. But dozens of photographs were laid out on the table in front of me, black and white and colour, which would instantly gather a bunch of likes on any adult website. This is simply impossible, so that he has such evidence. No, no, no. There is no way my good and kind-hearted man would send all this information to family and friends, from my parents and siblings to long-time friends and acquaintances we knew in college. He would never subject me to such public shame. His puny lawyer and glasses could in no way be better than my magnificent defender, the Shark Woman, who hates this whole despicable tribe of louts and always acts in courts under the slogan, "Don't take goats prisoner." God, with what pleasure I will receive the lion's share of property and money from all our accounts, and make him bitterly regret the day when he dared to challenge me. What? This couldn't happen. This stupid judge can't side with hubby and his pathetic lawyer. It's simply unheard of for him to keep our house and 75% of our assets. These were supposed to be my house and my assets. In the meeting room I heard words like ironclad marriage contract, irresponsible disrespect for family and shamefully promiscuous behaviour, but they did not penetrate my mind, sliding along the edges of consciousness as meaningless gobbledygook words. It must have been some kind of nightmare from which I could wake up with relief at any minute. Yes, that's how it is. Of course, my now ex-husband would meet me in the hallway and listen to my last apology, which would sound so sincerely. And then he will hug and kiss me tightly and forgive me my little flaws and will eventually take me back. After all, men really are that weak-willed. At that moment, when my ex disappeared from the courthouse in the blink of an eye, completely ignoring my heart-rending cries, "Wait a minute, we need to talk," I was not taken aback and soon called my lover to delight him with the news that I was moving in with him. In any case, he was better than my ex-hubby in every way, and I would show my ex-husband how truly pathetic and dull his life would be without me. 10 minutes later I hung up, not believing my ears. My lover couldn't stop from uncontrollable laughter when he heard my idea that he would take me to his place and we would be happy together. It simply couldn't be what he said when he stopped laughing, baby. It was so much fun hanging out with you while this was going on. But you know, I'm not into second-hand junk. I couldn't be alone. It's just absurd that almost everyone I knew, with the exception of my mother, refused to even talk to me, and it's completely incomprehensible that even my dear mother, being a kind and gentle person by nature, did not allow me to move in with her. Where is this world going? And here I am standing in the parking lot, abandoned by everyone and alone, holding in my hands and staring blankly at the positive report on STDs from my doctor. What's going on anyway? This is simply unthinkable. Looking back, I suddenly thought that maybe made an error. Would you like to understand which one, where, and when? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next